I'm going to show you this game first. He opened up with e4. Of course, I played the Kovalchuk right, every game. He played knight c3, so I was like, oh, is he going to play knight f3? But he ended up just playing d4. And I didn't prepare much at all before this game. I was 8 minutes late. I didn't think for 8 minutes on the first move. So knight c3, d5. He played d4. I took. And of course, I could have played bishop f5, which is the classical. But I wanted to play the Tartic hour, which is knight f6, takes. And he went c3, which is the main move. And in this position, the main move by far is castling. But something that I had looked at, because I was considering playing it against Chiron, mostly just to surprise him, it's not particularly special, is this move knight a6. Knight a6 is a weird move. You basically postpone castling, and the knight quickly gets to the center, and then you oftentimes actually advance your pawn here. It's a very peculiar way to play the Tartic hour, but I found it quite fascinating when I was just researching it. And actually, Coach Nixon showed me this move, and it was like, here's where I got it from, and you can take a look. So queen c2, knight c7, and now knight e2. And here black plays h5. And the point is that, I wanted to castle, but I couldn't because the pawn was hanging. But if I played g6, he would play bishop h6. Now I can't castle, and also he's going to castle queenside. So you play h5. And the idea is actually very easy. You just kind of walk your king to g7. And the engine always says it's like plus 0.5, but it's not the easiest plus 0.5 to handle. So I played h5, and I was like, okay, this is exactly what I want. I mean, the guy's obviously pretty strong, considering he's been beating like 3 of the players in this tournament. But I have him in, a Caro-Kann. I'm going to be quite satisfied and probably play my type of game. He played knight g3, which is definitely not a move. I mean, white should, castle or prepare to castle queenside at a minimum here. Knight g3, I didn't really understand, but it allows me to play h4. I kind of got that his point was to just come here, grab one of my bishops with his knight, and basically say like, look, I don't care about your h-pawn, I have the 2 bishops. So he played knight f5, and actually right away, black is slightly better. And I kind of had a feeling, like during the game, I was like, really? Because, the setup that I want to employ in the Tartic hour involves pawns on the light squares, which is, I'm going to have a lot of them, and I figured I should get rid of this bishop, which is what I did. And then I played pawn to g6. So from the opening, the opening is a success. According to the computer, despite not having the bishop pair, and despite having a compromised pawn structure in the sense that I have doubled f-pawns, black is better. He goes bishop g4, I advance again, and he plays... This is where he wanted to put his bishop on the f3 square. So here I took my first think of the game because the opening is basically over, and now it's just a question of where are we going to put our pieces, right? So I thought of many different setups here. I thought of walking my king just to g7 and then letting him decide what he was going to do. Then I thought about playing knight e6 and trying to fight on these dark squares. Then I thought about where he's going to try to put his king. I considered queen f6, preparing long castle, and also preparing this kind of g5, g4 advance, potentially. I thought for a while here, I think like 10 minutes, and I decided to play queen f6, which is a reasonable move. The computer here prefers to start by castling. This is its preferred method, and it thinks that because of the threat of the rook here, white doesn't actually have time to castle queenside, so because I'm going to play rook e8 check. So it thinks that this forces the computer after castle. It forces my opponent to castle, and the engine evaluates the position as slightly better for black because this is not where white's king should be placed, considering that I have a space advantage and I have some attacking ideas, and it thinks that in the long run, maybe black is actually slightly better. The move that I played, however, allows my opponent to quickly prepare a queenside castle. And here I had another thought, right? So here I was thinking of a lot of different ideas like knight e6, knight d5, I was thinking of g5. One calculation that I had here, and this was a recurring theme toward the end of the tournament, is I calculated something and I completely misevaluated this. So here I thought, I'm going to play h3. I'm going to play h3 because I'm trying to soften up his pawn structure. He's going to play g3. Now I use the bishop here and I play f4. So now I'm threatening to compromise his pawn structure, and I calculated a line here, and I ultimately didn't go for this because I thought takes, Queen e4 takes, and I wasn't sure I was much better. I just thought this position was equal, and I traded too many pieces. I mean, this is completely idiotic. This position is obviously slightly better for black. White has a bad pawn on f2, potential long-term weakness. I'm just going to play f5. I'm going to play king f7, king f6. I'm going to bring my knight. I'm going to bring my rook. In the previous tournament, the IM Norm round robin that I played, I would have went for this position probably immediately. And I mean, I saw this line. I thought it was like a little bit too drawish, too dry. And I thought, I don't want to trade that many pieces, so I'm just going to play knight to d5. The idea of knight to d5 is to put some pressure. And if he trades with me and plays something like queen b3, for example, here I took a look at f4, just basically sacrificing these pawns, opening up his king, creating some sort of attack. And I really liked my position. And he just ignored me. And you'll notice that at this point, it's taken me about 10 minutes each move to make a decision, and it's taken him 2 to 5 minutes. So this guy is playing pretty fast. I'm getting kind of nowhere in the opening. I didn't want to trade because then it's like actually heading towards it, or like opposite colored bishops. He's just going to trade some pawns in the center. And, you know, I went here, and he played king b1, like pretty easy move. I went rook e8. He took his bishop back to its home square because he didn't want it to be captured. And I went b5, which is the best move, preventing c4, preventing a couple of things like rook b8, etc. And again, he just kind of, like, he didn't even think. I mean, he just instantly played pawn to g3. And all of a sudden, like, maybe I'm in trouble, because if I play, for example, king g7, pawn takes, and queen takes, I mean, I thought he just starts creating some sort of attack over here. And I was actually I felt very unpleasant. So I closed the position again after spending some more time. And I mean, every move, look at this. He's just on 111 for like 5 moves in a row. I mean, he just played every move super fast. So what happened here is he played rook to e1. And I sat there thinking for a minute or two. And technically he did something. This is very, very technical, but you're supposed to offer a draw as you make the move. You cannot sit there for a few minutes, look at your opponent, and then just, you know, offer a draw if you notice you blundered something or you decide you want to draw. So he played rook e1, he said, I offer a draw. Like, in 2 to 3 minutes, he said, I offer a draw. So by that point, I already went down to about, 28, 29 minutes on the clock. And I'm looking at the clock. I'm down 40 minutes. And I have no idea what my plan is here, like, at all. There is a plan to play bishop f8, bishop g7. I didn't understand what I was going to accomplish with this move. Maybe also to move my knight, like I can play bishop, I can then move my knight because my queen is protecting my pawn. Another idea I had was rook b8, but like if rook b8, I mean, I didn't think I was ever going to succeed here. He can always play c4, c5, d5. So I just took the draw. And I really hated to do so, but I actually did not fully trust that I would keep myself together down this much on the clock with a pretty unclear plan of action. Like, this is a game that would have taken a large amount of finesse and a good amount of nervous system to hold together. Like, I needed to make the push into his position at the right moment. And yeah, I just decided, like, look, I would absolutely be devastated if I lost this game. Of course, it's a huge elo loss to lose to 2050, who's clearly not 2050. The guy's like, obviously, I would say 2200 minimum FIDE strength, just looking at his previous games. Just the old mysterious Ukrainian man, kind of like some sort of sensei. And I said, like, whatever, I'm going to make a draw. I'm going to save my energy for the last round.